Making our headlines today, Queen Elizabeth II, world's longest-serving monarch, dies at 96. Malaysia's franchise industry sales to hit nearly 23 billion ringgit. Queen Elizabeth II, Britain's longest reigning monarch, the nation's figurehead and a towering presence on the world stage for 7 decades, died peacefully at her home in Scotland on Thursday, aged 96. The Queen, whose husband Prince Philip died last year, had been suffering from what Buckingham Palace had called episodic mobility problems since the end of last year, forcing her to withdraw from nearly all her public engagements. News that the Queen's health was deteriorating emerged shortly after midday on Thursday when her doctors said she was under medical supervision, prompting her family to rush to Scotland to be by her side. Thousands gathered outside Buckingham Palace in central London, and there was a stunned silence when the flag was lowered to half-mast. The crowd surged to the gates as the notice announcing the death of the only monarch most Britons have ever known was attached to the black iron gates. Queen Elizabeth's last official duty came only on Tuesday when she appointed Liz Truss Prime Minister, the 15th of her reign. Queen Elizabeth II, who was also the world's oldest and longest-serving head of state, came to the throne following the death of her father, King George, on 6 February 1952, when she was just 25. Meanwhile, Queen Elizabeth's eldest son, Charles, 73, became King Charles III and the oldest person to ever assume the British throne following the death of his mother. No date has been set for his coronation. The focus of King Charles's reign will be his age and the declining influence of the British monarchy around the world. King Charles has spent virtually his whole life as heir apparent and has become a familiar figure in his own right, even as he starts a new job at an age when most people have retired. But in stark contrast to the neutrality his mother observed, he has at times courted controversy with strongly held views that have made him a more outspoken, divisive figure. While Princess Elizabeth became Queen aged 25 to huge popular support in a Britain recovering from World War II, the public has had decades to form its opinion, good or bad, of King Charles. He also alienated many with his messy divorce from the much-loved Princess Diana, and by straining the rules that prohibit royals from intervening in public affairs, wading into debates on issues such as environmental protection and architectural preservation. United States President Joe Biden signed the condolence book at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. yesterday following the death of Queen Elizabeth. The First Lady Jill Biden also sat down to sign the book.
I had the opportunity to meet her before she passed, and she was an incredibly gracious and decent woman. And the thoughts and prayers of the American people are with the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth in their grief.
At the embassy, the Union Jack was lowered to fly at half-mast in tribute to Her Majesty the Queen. A towering presence on the world stage for 7 decades, the cherished sovereign died peacefully at her home in Scotland on Thursday, aged 96. Her son Charles automatically becomes monarch of the United Kingdom and the head of state of 14 other realms, including Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. Mourners around the world have been expressing their condolences and paying homage to the late Queen's legacy. Malaysia has also extended sincere condolences to the British monarch's family, the people and the government of the United Kingdom on the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Abdullah said on a Facebook posting on his official page that Her Majesty was a towering figure even among prominent figures in the world. She had led a lifetime of dedication and service to the people of the UK and the Commonwealth. The Malaysian High Commission in London also expressed deep sorrow and sent their condolences to the British royal family and the people of the United Kingdom. The British Palace reported the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral today and will return to London tomorrow. On a related matter, several sporting events in Britain were cancelled out of respect for the Queen's passing. British media also reported that the English Premier League may also decide to postpone this weekend's matches. Malaysia's franchise industry is expected to see its sales value increase to 22.66 billion ringgit by 2025 from 14.65 billion ringgit in 2020. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the local franchise industry has been growing rapidly, with 1,149 franchises registered under the Franchise Act 1998. He said in 2021, the number of franchise outlets that had opened in the country rose by 47% year-on-year to 13,779, in turn creating around 49,000 jobs. The Prime Minister also noted at the 29th Franchise International Malaysia Exhibition and Conference FIM 2022 that Malaysian franchise brands have become more globally renowned, with 68 brands currently present in 74 nations. Through a speech text read by Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi, the Premier said various initiatives to strengthen the local franchise industry have been implemented. This was to ensure business sustainability and stability, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic and inflation period.
Mensejahterakan rakyat, khususnya melalui penggalakan penyertaan golongan B40 dan M40 dalam perniagaan franchise sebagai peluang pekerjaan dan punca pendapatan, selain meluaskan potensi konsep perniagaan ini di kawasan luar bandar, diberi penekanan khusus oleh Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Hal-Ehwal Pengguna.
Teachers should empower teaching and learning methods that are more creative and innovative in order to attract the attention of students and motivate them to come to school. This includes identifying skills as well as the interests of the pupils according to the school-based assessment PBS. Senior Education Minister Datuk Dr. Razzie Jidin said the ministry is continuously strengthening three components in PBS to ensure that every pupil has their own potential, strengths and interests. This includes classroom evaluation, sports and curriculum physical assessment as well as psychometric evaluation. PBS also uses a more holistic approach in evaluating the potential of a student before they advance to the next stage.
Dia ambil IPSR di darjah 6. Okey. Dapat keputusan, katalah keputusan tak bagus. Apa cikgu sekolah rendah boleh buat? Dia dah darjah 6, dapat keputusan SUPSR, keputusan dia tak bagus. Cikgu tak boleh buat apa dah. Hantar je lah pergi sekolah menengah. So sekarang ini kita nak selesaikan sewaktu di sekolah rendah. Dia tak sangkut di sekolah rendah. Jadi begitu juga PT3. PT3 ni dia buat di tingkatan 3. Dapat PT3 keputusan dia tak berapa bagus. Apa cikgu menengah rendah boleh buat? Tak boleh buat apa dah. Lepas tu dia masuk ke menengah atas. Jadi pendekatan kita buat lebih menyeluruh. Daripada bawah sampai ke atas, kita sediakan murid ni betul-betul ready. Jadi dia keluar sistem, insya-Allah dia dicampakkan kat mana pun dia boleh bersaing dengan semua orang. Dia akan dihormati dan berdiri sama tinggi dengan orang lain.
The community farm project will be expanded to 10,000 unused land nationwide to increase the country's supply of wood. This is intended to address and fulfill the demands of buyers from inside as well as outside the country. Plantation Industries and Commodities Minister Datuk Zuraida Kamaruddin said towards this target, the community farm pilot project has been implemented in several villages around Batu Kikir, Jempol, Negeri Sembilan. 78 participants involved had planted eucalyptus trees in areas as wide as 100 hectares.
Satu ekar tanah, dia boleh tanam 600 batang pokok eucalyptus. So 600 eucalyptus ni dia akan menghasilkan satu pokok berdapat RM200. Kali kalau 600 kali 10 tahun 6 tahun. Dan 6 tahun kita potong dan RM60,000. Itu 1 hektar. 1 hektar. So jadi daripada tanah-tanah terbiar kat rumah kita, kita elok kita masuk dalam program ini agar kita dapat manfaatkan untuk pendapatan peribadi dapat ditingkatkan dan at the same time akan dapat menjadi sumber bahan mentah untuk kita industri kayu-kayan kita.
The timber industry has become an important sector to the country's economic development, with exports for the first half of the year totaling 13.2 billion ringgit. Last year, the timber industry reached an overall export value of over 22 billion ringgit. Local precision metal parts manufacturer Metalmac Microtechnology Sunan Berhad MMT and its auxiliary materials partner from China, Future Hover Industrial Co Limited, will invest 1 billion ringgit in a semiconductor plant in Negeri Sembilan. The soon-to-be launched factory will serve as a hub for local and international suppliers to source more competitive items in a shorter lead time and generate about 1,000 jobs. According to MMT Operations Director Lau Kim Yong, the cooperation and investment of both parties could generate export revenue of 10 billion ringgit within the next 10 years. This is achieved by combining MMT's 40 years of experience in precision machining, mold dies and development of semiconductors together with Future Hover's highly competitive consumables and auxiliary materials, as well as its expertise in semiconductor testing and packaging, all under one roof. The move would also improve Malaysia's already favourable position in the supply chain and enables the country to be the preferred choice for global semiconductor production. The National Reproductive Health Education and Social Pekerti Policy and Action Plan 2022 to 2025, launched yesterday, is an improvement from the 2009 and 2012 version. Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Sri Rina Muhammad Harun said the improvements came in the cause, strategies and activities of the program. She said Pekerti 2022 and 2025 contained 5 cores, 11 strategies and 26 activities related to reproductive and social health, compared to 4 cores, 6 strategies and 15 activities in Pekerti 2009 and 2012. On 27th April, the Cabinet approved Pekerti 2022 to 2025 to replace Pekerti 2009 and 2012 by taking into account religious diversity, age group, culture, gender and life values of the Malaysian family. This was in line with the target of Sustainable Development Goals SDG 2023, which is to achieve gender equality and empower women and girls.
Bila kita lihat bahawa perlu ada penambahbaikan kepada dasar tersebut, maka tahun ini kita lancarkan untuk tahun 2022. Jadi anak-anak zaman sekarang, remaja zaman sekarang tak sama dengan remaja sekarang dulu. Tapi kita tidak boleh kata you should do A, B, C. Kita perlu untuk memahami mereka, dan dalam kita memahami mereka itu untuk kita berikan garis panduan bagaimana mereka boleh menjalani kehidupan yang lebih selamat, ya.
In the foreign front, suspect arrested in Memphis after day-long shooting spree that killed 4. Hundreds of students rallied in Indonesia's capital on Thursday to protest sharp increases in fuel prices by the government. The protesters from several student organizations gathered at Jakarta's National Monument, which commemorates Indonesia's struggle for independence. The government increased fuel prices by about 30% last Saturday after reducing some of the costly subsidies that have helped control inflation in the country. The hike, the first in 8 years, raised the price of gasoline from 51 cents to 67 cents per litre and diesel fuel from 35 cents to 46 cents. Protests have been held in several large cities since Monday by students, workers, farmers, fishermen and teachers. The president of the Confederation of Indonesian Trade Unions, SAHIH, said workers are planning more rallies and considering a national strike unless the increase is rescinded. President Joko Widodo said the government was forced to raise fuel prices because the country's energy subsidies had tripled this year to 502 trillion rupiah, or $34 billion, as a result of rising global prices of oil and gas. Steve Bannon, the one-time top strategist to former US President Donald Trump, pleaded not guilty on Thursday to money laundering and conspiracy charges for allegedly deceiving donors to an effort to help Trump build a wall along the US-Mexico border. Bannon, 68, was handcuffed when he came into a New York State court in Manhattan. He was released without bail after his lawyer David Schoen entered the plea on his behalf. Prosecutors accused Bannon of defrauding donors who contributed more than $15 million to a private fundraising drive known as We Build a Wall for the former Republican president's signature wall. According to the indictment, Bannon promised donors that all their money would go toward the wall, but concealed his role in diverting hundreds of thousands of dollars to the drive's chief executive, who had promised to take no salary. The chief executive has been identified in court papers as Brian Colfax, an Air Force veteran who pleaded guilty in April to federal wire fraud, conspiracy and tax charges and is awaiting sentencing. If convicted, he could face up to 15 years in prison for money laundering, though prison is not mandatory. A teenager has been arrested after an hour-long shooting spree across the city of Memphis that left 4 people dead in a series of separate attacks, including one that was broadcast live on Facebook.
So first, I want to...
Memphis Police Chief Sarah Lynn Davis said charges were pending for Ezekiel Kelly, 19, who was taken into custody after multiple shootings over the course of the day left the Tennessee city on edge and forced many of its 630,000 residents to shelter in place. The attacks began early on Wednesday when officers found a man shot and killed in a driveway in North Memphis. At about 4:30 p.m. local time, officers responded to another shooting and found another man dead, shot multiple times inside a vehicle. 10 minutes later, a woman was shot in the leg. About an hour later, a man was wounded inside a store and the gunman, police said, streamed the attack live on Facebook. Police were alerted to the broadcast by residents who saw it. The suspect then carjacked another woman and killed her. Another man was later wounded and a woman killed. The gunman later carjacked another female motorist who was uninjured in the incident. Police spotted the vehicle and began a high-speed chase, which ended when officers took the suspects in custody without incident. 2 guns were found inside the vehicle.
6:12 p.m. we received information from a concerned citizen.
The Terengganu government is planning to give a special reward to the Terengganu FC TFC squad if they win the FA Cup tomorrow. Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Samsuri Mokhtar is very hopeful that the Turtles would bring home the prestigious trophy, thus ending an 11-year drought after the state's last FA Cup win in 2011.
Dan insyaAllah akan berada di Padang pada hari Sabtu malam ini dengan penuh semangat. Dan untuk menyuntik semangat itu akan ada insentif diberikan sekiranya pasukan dari TFC memenangi dalam perlawanan akhir nanti, insyaAllah.
Apart from that, Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Samsuri, who is also president of the Terengganu Football Association, PBSNT, advised club supporters attending the match at the Bukit Jalil National Stadium to protect the state's image and reputation. He said supporters should accept whatever the result of the match and not to indulge in provocation, which could cause disharmony and chaos among the public. The national men's hockey team will have a tough task getting past the group stage of the World Cup 2023 that will be held in Bhubaneswar and Rourkela, India from 13th to 29th January. The Speedy Tigers, coached by Arul Selvaraj, have been drawn in Group C with three-time champions and last year's finalists, the Netherlands, Oceania champions New Zealand, and South American continental winners Chile. Arul said his target for the Speedy Tigers was for them to clear the group stage and qualify for the quarterfinals.
Peluang persahabatan akan kita dapat di jelajah Eropah dan juga di Azlan Shah Cup dan di Nations Cup. Saya rasa kita kena keluar untuk memenangi secara realistiknya. Kita kena menang dengan New Zealand dan juga Chile, dan perlawanan dengan Holland kita kena bermain dengan lebih bijak.
At the last edition of the World Cup in India in 2018, the Dutch hammered the Speedy Tigers 7-0. The Speedy Tigers booked their ticket to the World Cup 2023 after emerging runner-ups in the Asia Cup in May. This is the 9th time Malaysia will be playing in the World Cup, with their best ever achievement being a 4th placing in 1975. Carla Zakara saved the match points in the 4th set before digging deep in the decider to beat Jannik Sinner in a 5-set thriller and reach the US Open semi-finals on Thursday in New York. The Spanish teenager collapsed on his back after the match, lasting more than 5 hours, concluded at 2:50 a.m. local time, beating the previous record for the latest finish of 2:26 a.m. set in 3 matches in 1993, 2012 and 2014. The 6-3, 6-7, 6-7, 7-5 and 6-3 win keeps alive Alcaraz's hopes of winning a maiden Grand Slam title and claiming the world #1 ranking. Meanwhile, in the women's draw-ons, Jabber executed a stunning 6-1, 6-3 demolition of Caroline Garcia in the US Open semi-finals, ending the French woman's hot streak to reach her 2nd Grand Slam final of the year. 13-match winning streak on stage 18 with a late sprint to the top of the Alto de Pionnal on Thursday. The 192-kilometer mountain stage from Trujillo culminated with 2 ascents of the first category, Alto de Pionnal, and it was here where the 22-year-old secured victory. He pulled ahead of nearest general classification challenger Enric Mas after the duo had caught stage leader Robert Jasic with just under half a kilometer left, stretching his overall lead to 2 minutes 7 seconds over the Spaniard. The day had started with a large crash in the peloton, after which Jay Vine abandoned and left a number of riders sporting road rash. A mass breakaway ensued, with 38 riders leading the course until the first ascent of the Paranal, with just over 50 kilometers to go, where the group splintered and Jessing pulled out in front, leading until the final stages before finishing 3rd. Friday's stage is 138-kilometer loop starting and ending in Talavera de la Reina, featuring 2 ascents of the 2nd category, Puerto de Pilago, before a flat finish. Thierry Neuville blitzed the 1.95-kilometer side-by-side tarmac test in front of a bumper 60,000 crowd on Thursday night, seeing off Toyota's Alfyn Evans in their head-to-head contest to post a time 0.1 second faster than WRC 2-star Teemu Suninen, who set the early benchmark. The return of the Olympic Stadium Super Special for the first time since 2006 proved to be a hit with the drivers, and particularly Neuville. And that concludes today's edition of Updates at Noon. In our top story, Queen Elizabeth II, world's longest-serving monarch, dies at 96. Thank you for watching. I'm Renee Fong. Stay tuned to TV2. Have a pleasant afternoon.